Hello everyone, my name is Pierre-Hugues. Today's presentation will essentially show you how you can install the Ubuntu image on the VM player. Now this is interesting for people who are more comfortable using Windows. So essentially in this example I'm using Windows 8.1 64-bit, and I'm going to be running the Ubuntu Linux distribution using the VM player. So you will see it's fairly straightforward. There's just a few steps to follow. Okay, so let's get started. So first you will need to download the VM player 64-bit from VMware. So what I suggest, you simply go to the VMware main website that you can see here, and then you go to the download player, and then you will see there's the option, obviously if you're using the Microsoft Windows OS 64-bit, there's an option just to download the VMware player software. So that's definitely your first step here. Now, after you install it successfully, you will be able to use it like this after you run it. So essentially you will get an empty VM player with no VM created just yet. Okay, so that's really the first step to install a VM player on your Windows 64-bit or 32-bit if you're using 32-bit version of Windows. Now the next step will be obviously to download your Ubuntu distribution from, again, the internet. So what I recommend in this case, depending on the version, you will see there is the version I'll use for the example is the Ubuntu 15.04, which is called Vivid Vervet, which is one of the latest release, and I'll use the desktop version as well. Okay, so in this example, you can simply Google quickly the Ubuntu releases, and you will see essentially there's a releases here, which website that consolidate the different version that you have available, and the goal will be here, as we can see, the version 15.04. Then you can download your preferred image, right? So in this case, in my example, I'm using Microsoft Windows 8.1 64-bit, so I'm going to download the 64-bit PC desktop image, right? Essentially you just download, and what you get essentially is a large .iso file, right? Which is the image its file itself. Okay, so after you're done with the download, essentially go back to your VM player right here. Now what we're going to do here is create a new virtual machine. Okay, so you select the create virtual machine. Now this is the location, right, of the ISO file that we just downloaded, as we just saw earlier. And then you're going to say next. Then you can enter your name, some information quickly. You can set up your username, then your own password that you would like to get. Okay, then select next. You'll see it's fairly straightforward. Then you can customize your machine name and also the location. So in this case, your location, you may want to override this one, obviously, and then you can select one that you care about. So in this case, we did set up a quick lab, so we're going to pick up this as the location for our virtual machine, right? And then you can right away you can define some capacity. So in our case, we're going to set up 200 gig of capacity, and you can just use the default setting initially, and then you can go back and customize the capacity of your VM as per your requirement, right? I'm going to click next, and pretty much it. We'll do the customization later on. Okay. Then you hit the finish. Essentially now VMware was going to do is run some of the installation and launch the VM directly, as we can see here. All right. So we can see right now the Ubuntu is getting loaded. Our new virtual machine is getting loaded to the VMware. Now it's going to take some time. After that, depending on the speed of your processor, on my end, about just 2 or 3 minutes just to copy some of the files and run the installation there, and after that you'll be good to go. So we're just going to wait a little bit. As you can see, you will get the installation as the super user, and essentially the Now, as I said, this can be interesting depending on your setup, but keep in mind you're not forced to use Microsoft Windows. Obviously, you could also use VMware player itself. If you want to have, let's say, Linux directly, you could also use the Ubuntu directly and use VMware the other way around as well. So again, it's for people who are comfortable with Microsoft Windows that which would like, let's say, to maybe do some development work. Let's say, depending on what you do, if you do some development works in, for example, Java or other type, it could be interesting to have a separate VM that you can run Linux. Same thing you could do also on Solaris, right? There's also the virtual box that you could do as well. So that I found interesting, like on my side, um, to either for learning purposes as well, right? If you want to practice either on some of the troubleshooting, so it's very useful to have a VM player and run a couple of VMs on your computer. Now you will see after some of the installation of the files, essentially we'll be doing another reboot, and now you can see we're good to go. Essentially we're good to go for the login. So I'm just going to log in now to our new virtual machine. Right? So as we can see, we're still inside our VM player. I can switch around easily while the Ubuntu right now VM is loading, right? And that's essentially the main screen that you will see, right? Essentially you get the and again, this is, as I mentioned, the desktop version of it, so you will get the graphical interface from that version as well. So if I right click, open a terminal, so you can see that's pretty much it, right? So I'm inside now my Ubuntu Linux brand new VM, right? And then you're pretty much good to go at that stage, right? So you can do whatever you want depending on what you want to do, so you're pretty much good to go. So what I'm going to do next is just show you briefly. So I'm going to shut down essentially my VM right now, and we're going to show quickly how you can customize your VM from a resources perspective. So I'm going to shut it down here. So essentially we shut down the Ubuntu itself, right? And I'm going to load back my VM player, right? This is a newly created, and from this you can definitely customize the settings, right? So like the RAM is fairly low, so like on my side, let's say I want to do some Java programming, let's say Java E, or running some server side. So in this case I would set up, let's say you can set up more RAM. So let's say in this case we set up about 8 gig of RAM out of 16, right? So this holds a 16, so you can set up about 8 gig of RAM. Same thing for the processor. You want to scale up maybe to 8 processor, depending again on what type of work you're trying to do. And then you simply save the settings, right? So I recommend that you go around, make sure you don't overscale your VM, make sure you're not starving your primary host, as I mentioned earlier, and you're good to go. And you see it's very easy. You can do some file sharing as well, so you can enjoy both if you wish to have Windows still as your primary host, and then you can enjoy your new Ubuntu VM on the desktop version. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this small tutorial. Please feel free to post any comment or question, and I'll get back in the future with more tutorials. Thank you.